Hello, this is Dr. Khanzode. I have an announcement to make about our upcoming program. Tarika Foundation, in partnership with A Future for Every Child, is launching Free Flight Launchpad for Life program for middle and high schoolers. Free Flight is a multi-year self-discovery program that explores what success means, teaches adulting skills, and empowers teens to discover their interests and grow in a safe space. It's for middle and high schoolers along with a parent, and it will be a monthly meeting where the kids will pick up super skills, meet unique role models, and of course, it's going to be done in a super fun environment. Please sign up your child for 3 complimentary sessions on Saturday, May 8th, June 19th, and July 10th. If you're interested, please go to www.tarika.foundation and you will be able to sign up your child there. Thank you so much.
Hello, welcome to Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving podcast series by Tarika Foundation. I am Dr. Leena Khanzode, founder of Tarika Foundation, and your host today for the new series we are starting for parents. And this is going to be focusing on living values education. I am so delighted to also have a co host with me, Poonam Nakpal, who's a software engineer here in the Bay Area and also a parent. So we are going to get some parent perspective on living values education from her. Very delighted to welcome our guest, Diane Tillman, who is the main instrument in getting the living values education curriculum out in the world. So welcome, everybody. I'm going to start with introducing Diane first. Diane Tillman is a licensed educational psychologist, marriage and family therapist, values education authority, and mediator. She has worked for more than 20 years as a school psychologist in Southern California before becoming involved in creation of Global Values Education Initiative in August of 1996, this program called Living Values Education. She's primary author of Living Values Education series of books and an additional 10 resource book on value education for young people at risk. She has circled the globe numerous times doing seminars on living value education and personal development in more than 30 countries. She has done values education seminars for UNESCO, ministries of education, educators, parent facilitators, and street children agencies at universities, schools, and retreat centers, along with in refugee camps. She has also written Nurturing with Love and Wisdom, Disciplining with Peace and Respect, a mindful guide to parenting, a children's book. She is currently updating and expanding the original LVE series of books for Association of Living Values Education International. So it gives me immense pleasure to have Diane for this new series of our podcast. Welcome, Diane.
Thank you so much, Lena. I'm honored to be here.
So, Diane, let me start with asking you first about what is LVE? I did mention earlier a living values education. I would like to hear from you how we can tell what this is and help our audience understand. And I want to ask a very kind of important basic question. What's the need for values and what led to coming up with living values education program?
Okay, beautiful questions, two of them. To put living values in one sentence, it's a international global endeavor to nurture hearts and educate minds. The need, if we look at that one short phrase of nurturing hearts and educating minds, we can see in the world right now for adults and for children. Living Values started as a program for children from 3 years old through university. But the need came out of a meeting of 20 educators meeting around the world together And we all agreed that children, by and large, very few had the privilege of being educated in a nurturing and caring environment of quality education. And we also saw a real deterioration of values in the world. And so, decades ago, maybe 60, 70 years ago, we could see that parents were able to educate children about values through stories and relating examples. But in current times, young people are so impacted by social media, by violent video games and movies, the glorification of materialism. And so many of them have begun to adopt those as values, and unfortunately, have their mind impacted by them, and then interact with that kind of behavior with others. So we're seeing this huge increase in bullying and unkindness, and children are very impacted by this. So there is a need to bring something else into their life, because simultaneously, for most children, the time with their parents had become less. Now, with the pandemic, that is reversed for many, many children, but it hasn't been optimal for parents, the pandemic, much less for children. So I think all the children right now returning to school are really saying, oh boy, I get to go back to school. But the impact of children in schools where there's bullying has been tragic, because there's been a real increase in suicide rates and children dropping out because of social difficulties. So the needs are immense. And if we consider the fact that the values that children are brought up with, they transmit into their life as adults, and it goes into the social fabric of the community and the country, then we see the real impact on the entire country. Countries need a fabric of peace and respect and harmony and social justice if they're going to thrive, and if the people in them are going to have well-being.
Very well said, Diane. I, as a child psychiatrist, see so much of issues now with the children and teens I work with. And you are absolutely right. There is higher rates of bullying and suicides. Little kids, I mean, my heart breaks when I see how unkind they have often been to each other, and lack of those original values of respect, peace, love has led to a lot of racial issues or racial inequalities that we are hearing more and more about in the recent news. And it's so important to revive those living values back for our youth, for our future. So I very much agree with you. I cannot describe how I am surprised and shocked to hear about the kinds of cyberbullying that goes on social media. There is lots of inappropriate language, lack of respect that is often like used in those, and how that impacts the child's self-esteem and confidence in themselves, makes them feel worse. And then, as you are pointing out, we are seeing a lot more of those kids starting to self-harm themselves or finding ways to end this for them. So very much needed. And so how did you get involved in creating this curriculum, and what does this really entail?
Well, always with living values. We began it with a meeting at UNICEF in New York, with 20 educators, as I mentioned earlier, from around the world. But that meeting was a result of me writing a little chapter in a book called Living Values, a guidebook, which was written by the Brahma Kumaris to honor the 50th anniversary of the United Nations. So the head of early development, early childhood in UNESCO, Cyril Dallas, he read that chapter and loved it. And he said, the world needs more of this. Children need more of this. So 20 educators met around the world in August of 1996. That was the beginning. I quit my job as a school psychologist. I'd worked as a school psychologist for 23 years. And I began writing, and I've now written more than 20 books for living values education. But the program has two major components. One component is that of doing professional development trainings for educators or for parents so that they can learn to create a very safe, nurturing environment. We have a beautiful model, and I'll tell you about that later. But the essence of it is that when we treat young people in such a way, and each other, where they feel loved, respected, valued, understood, and safe, they move towards their potential. And when we treat them in such a way that they feel inadequate, shamed, hurt, afraid, and unsafe, they feel those things and they move away from their potential. They become sad or depressed, they feel low, or they can become very angry and violent. So one of the main components is helping educators understand that, not just intellectually, but emotionally, and then learn the skills to easily make your classroom or the group of children that you're working with feel safe, and learn then also facilitate the second component, which is the young people doing living values activities on different values, such as peace and simplicity and caring for the earth and her oceans, and love and respect and cooperation. Beautiful values that young people can learn about and love, and then learn the social skills to be able to live those values. For example, you were just mentioning the social bullying that's going on. So the current updated books, and there's living values activities books for children 3 to 7, 8 to 14, and for young adults. And in those books, they're currently completely updated. So they learn to envision a peaceful world, and they talk about respect. But later on, they develop guidelines for social media, what they want to live by. They discuss their feelings when things happen. There is social skill development, social emotional learning, where they learn how to deal with bullies. There's stories, there are songs, they imagine things. So the idea is to not only have them think about things, but to create things and make the values their own. So they are given the opportunity in a nurturing space to really think about how they want to be the world, how they want the world to be, and how they want their community to be, and then to create that.
Wow, that sounds like it's really a great model to empower the kids and help them kind of create the world they want. And as I understand, you have these curriculums, like you mentioned, you train educators. So I think it's been tested or brought in fact, to multiple schools all around the world. And I'm curious to hear about what impact has it made in those schools or on those children who have gone through some of this experience with living values education.
It's wonderful to speak with educators who have done living values for a number of years and who have schools where the entire school does living values, and the impact is wonderful. I've had principals tell me that people notice when they go into the school, the atmosphere, that there is a culture of belonging, there is a culture of caring and respect. We recently collected some data from one school that's a K-12, and we asked about bullying and violence. And the principal was incredibly honest. And he said, well, a couple of times last year, there was children that were playing a game and they shoved each other when they got upset about a soccer match. Slight shoving was the only violence during years. So, but that didn't even happen most of the time. So virtually there's no violence. There's a culture of belonging and respect and love. The teachers are happy, they're hardworking. The children are happy and they say school is like family. So the children thrive. In this one school, their 12th grade class, all the children got into the universities that they wished to get into, and all of them were accepted.
Wow, that's amazing. I think this is such a powerful and wonderful program that I think the number of benefits you listed out sound like they are for everybody, not just for the students, but for the teachers, for the whole like school environment. And I think I want to make sure audience know that all of the curriculum or most of the material for this is available for free on your website, www.livingvalues.net. And I think, like you mentioned, it is definitely planned with keeping in mind the developmental stage of the child. So you have different curriculums for different age groups. And so it is really an immense wealth of information that I saw on the website. And I definitely want people to go and take advantage of that. My next question for you, Diane, is to ask about where can people get this training? And I know since we have Poonam, who's done one of the training workshops with you, maybe I would like her to start with this, and then you can help us more about where people can find the training if they are interested. It sounds like it's for everybody, even parents, for educators. Uh, Anybody can get this training and the access to the free resources, and we can create a living values world in your own like little community, in your home or your school.
Yes, Dr. Lina, thank you so much for giving me that opportunity to share my own experience. I do feel I was very fortunate to attend the workshop led by Diane Tillman, and it was on living values. So I am a mother of two. So my younger one is 15, older one is 20, but I still felt, I can improve on my parenting skills. And I came to know about this workshop. And I will tell you, my perspective got changed, my behavior got changed after attending that workshop. And as you mentioned, I'm a software professional. I work with global customers and colleagues. So what I learned from that workshop is we all are human first, and there are basic values. And we just say, treat others as you want to be treated. But are we doing that? So are we loving and kind? Active listening was another eye opener for me. We talk before even we understand other person's perspective. So personally, I feel the whole world is going through right now identity crisis. We are identifying ourselves with various labels. Some are doing that with nationality, some are doing with gender, race, and we are kind of dividing each other. But these living values curriculum is very powerful to bring that oneness we need today. that human values, basic values, not only as a parent, not only as educator, but as even working professional, even as a community and a society. We need to understand these values, embrace them, and make them as our own values for wanting the world we all want to live in, where everybody is accepted, everybody is themselves and being loved. So with that, Diane, I would like to ask you, the fortune I got, how others can learn about this model and these values and maybe spread it in their community.
Thank you for sharing that, Poonam. That was so beautifully expressed. And it warms my heart. There is a team of educators around the world because Living Values is currently being implemented or is available in 40 countries around the world. But with the pandemic, trainings are very, very rare. And so one of the things that we've done in the last 2 years, because of the crisis in values around the world and the difficulty of educators getting the materials, is that we separated from our esteemed publisher who had published the books, and we made the books available online free of charge. Because in some countries it's very difficult for people to even get the books. So just in December, on December 23rd of this last year, 2020, Living Values Education Training Guide was published. And so that you can get from Amazon, or you can get on the livingvalues.net website. You can sign up to be sent the PDF of the book free of charge. And we've expanded Living Values because of recent needs to adults. So adults will find that there's a distance program, a distance tab on the website. And they can do a little bit of studying about values, do a personal journal, think about it. And if they want to be a facilitator, either as an educator for children in schools or in universities and receive a certificate, or if they want to do a training as a non-educator, as a regular person that's in business, they can apply to become a Living Values educator. And so educators who want to do the Living Values education program in an optimal way can take this training distance and not have to attend a real life training. But also non-educators for the first time can receive certificates and become facilitators of LVE. And business people could do it with their business communities, or people that are concerned about different groups, or they can do it with their family. And so what they would do is they would get this Living Values Education Training Guide and they would study it. And there's certain sections that they would study. Poonam was mentioning active listening, for example. And then there's a component on how to give appreciation and to encourage. There's components on, nonviolence. And so they would study these things, and then they would take a test. So the educators would then have their certificate. But people that aren't educators, they would receive a mentor, and they would actually create a group of 4 or more people and do a 12-week LVE study group in their community once a week for 4 weeks, and then receive mentoring. And then they would be able to receive a certificate and do this with confidence in their groups and benefit themselves and many others around them. So we're very pleased to be able to offer this, because a lot of people around the world are experiencing a lot of angst, a lot of anxiety, a lot of violence. And we have found many, many times that living values helps communities. There was a group in Indonesia that trained hundreds of people to do living values, and they went into a section of the country that it had Muslim, Christian violence and did some wonderful work. We've had trainers go into the Khmer Rouge region and really make a difference in communities there and have the people rediscover peace and how to create a meaningful community again. So it's very effective with adults as well as with young people. And we are very delighted to be able to offer this opportunity to everyone.
Thank you so much, Diana, for sharing. I'm so glad you're making it available to a worldwide community, and that's also absolutely free. That's amazing. And I'm sure our community will be benefited with all these resources you're providing to them. Thank you so much.
It was an honor and a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Poonam. Thank you, Dr. Lena. It was just a delight to be with you both.
Thank you. Thank you, Diane, for coming on this episode. We really, really appreciate it. I am so happy to hear about the wonderful resources you have available for our listeners. The website to go to and find out more about Living Values education curriculum is www.livingvalues.net. And we will hopefully be continuing the series to get more information about how some of these skills can be used in our day-to-day life. So looking forward to more conversations with you, Diane. And thank you again. You're listening to Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving. Stay safe and take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving, a podcast series by Tharaka Foundation focused on youth mental health. As part of our parenting series, we will be releasing new episodes on a regular basis, so be sure to continue to check those out. We hope you enjoyed this podcast and thank you so much for listening.